In a world with no new Elder Scrolls in sight, these two games have set the bar. They are open world RPGs but still feel very different. The Witcher 3 sometimes feels like an action adventure game with RPG elements, while Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 holds on to the more hardcore RPG style. Which is why I'm surprised by how mainstream KCD2 has gotten. Because other than Bethesda games, true RPGs don't usually have such a massive impact. That just shows the quality of KCD2. Even players who have never played an RPG want to try this out. The Witcher 3 has had an impact on so many open world games since it came out, from Assassin's Creed to Horizon games to even a small developing team named Warhorse Studios. The first Kingdom Come took inspiration from The Witcher 3 and now it has come full circle. CDPR, developers of the Witcher series, are taking inspiration from KCD2 for The Witcher 4. This isn't a theory, by the way, developers have spoken about this themselves. Let's start off with the open world. The Witcher series is based on a series of novels, and books usually have the best world building. With no budgetary limits, you can create anything you want, and the continent in The Witcher 3 is exactly that. It is a big map and, more importantly, a diverse map. Once you play the game for a while, you know which region you are in without looking at the map. Because Velen feels different from Novigrad, which feels different from Skellige. Even in Novigrad, parts of the city feel different from each other. This was the first time where I actually got obsessed exploring the world. Pulling crazy stunts and destroying things around me was what I did in open worlds. But The Witcher 3 made me go all around the map because it got me curious. Not to fight overpowered monsters, that's great in its own right, but because I couldn't get enough of the side quests and random encounters. Monster hunts were amazing, especially on Death March, but I was obsessed with those side quests that are a headache in the best possible way. Pretty much every quest has a twist. Nothing's black and white. You end up having to choose between a good choice that might cause destruction or an evil deed that makes everyone happy. Do I let this godling stay and bankrupt a merchant, or do I drive away this adorable creature who just wants to play pranks? That's just one of the 5,000 side quests in the game, and that is if you manage to keep yourself away from your Gwent addiction. In a monster hunting game, pretty much, the narrative is what makes you explore the world. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has equally, if not sillier, quests. For every find the pan, you have woo a woman for this jerk quest. This game has such a great atmosphere. I don't know if it's the music or how the game doesn't take itself too seriously, or Henry, who feels like the first proper Gen Z protagonist. Geralt is more of a typical action hero who's funny, unintentionally, tough and has a good heart, but Henry is a goofy, sometimes clueless but still capable protagonist. It is a treat to explore the world as Henry. KCD2 isn't a fantasy, so it's more grounded, which is what I usually prefer. But this game isn't grounded in a cool way. It's not like Red Dead Redemption 2. It is ugly sometimes. Getting beaten up by a single bandit is not easy on the ego, especially when you have no savior snaps. It's this brutal realism that makes exploration more fun, especially in the first few hours of the game. Should I stick to the main path and be safe, or do I go into the wild and get smacked around and lose about 3 hours of my progress? Much like The Witcher 3, KCD2 has side quests all over this huge map. It's almost an insult to call these side quests because they are of the same quality as the main stuff. The only difference is they are optional. The level of writing or complexity doesn't really change. That is the main reason people take 50 hours to go to the wedding, which is just the first map, by the way. All these side quests are so good and long as well. Side quests are a one and done deal mostly, even in The Witcher 3, but here they take you all over the place. They impact the main story sometimes. The Witcher 3 did start this trend in my opinion, but 10 years later, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 masters it. There's Henry's journey, some things are optional, but all of them are amazing. The Witcher 3's gameplay is the only complaint people have. Combat is definitely more action adventure like, in that it's a lot of fun but not as complex as a RPG like KCD2. Yeah, you have potions and oils and signs and mutagens, all of which you will need on higher difficulties, but just the combat itself feels a little simple, especially against human enemies. There is no real risk unless you try something really dumb or cool and dumb. When you play on Deathmarch and take the time to understand how to use oils and potions before a fight, you read up on the monster you're fighting, role play like a Witcher. It is very complex. But on easier difficulties, combat is almost boring. It doesn't have the flashy moves and brutality of something like Ghost of Tsushima, but when you up the difficulty and need to use your brain a little, it is fun. That's armed combat. Unarmed combat is also surprisingly good. There are a lot of fist fighting sections in the game. I noticed this on my recent playthrough. Except for Carol's loopy hooks and windmill punches, it is solid. Just blocking and parrying gets old, but playing with distance and movement, you can move around like Lomachenko. I feel it's an underrated part of the game. A lot of people have issues with how Geralt controls and moves. In small rooms, yeah, it can be a little annoying, but I don't really have a problem with how he moves in general. Out in the wild, you won't even notice anything, even by 2025 standards. I don't know if 2025 standards are better or worse than 2015 standards anymore, so there is that. Roach, on the other hand, is a pain to control. I started running everywhere because I didn't want to go on horseback, get stuck, or get thrown out of the saddle by mistake. Horseback riding could have been way better, definitely. KCD2 has a steep learning curve, and sometimes the game doesn't tell you directly how to play it. I looked up more guides than I'd like to admit because there are about 50 gameplay elements, no kidding, and most of them are important. Combat is so frustrating until you get it, then it is so satisfying. RPG mechanics, eating, sleeping, that's also frustrating surprisingly. You start the game off with no money and no place to sleep, and Henry whines and yawns what feels like every 5 minutes. I couldn't find a place to sleep for so long. I'm not even kidding. I kept getting kicked out before I found these camps outside town. Making potions is not my favorite thing to do. You don't need to do it other than in the beginning, but I feel like I am missing out on something, so I end up doing it, not very well of course. Being a blacksmith though, that was fun. Forging weapons is weirdly satisfying. Sticking steel in the fire and then hammering it and doing it a few times over, I enjoy that very much. Now on to the combat. It took me a while to figure it out. More than a while actually. For the first 10 hours, I was dying against drunks with a stick. Because I was playing it like any other game. Blocking and parrying and counter-attacking. In other games, that would be the end of your enemy. Here, they counter-attack your counter-attack. You keep doing this, your stamina is done for. You keep blocking, your stamina is done for. Combat is all about managing stamina and Master Strike once you learn it. Because parrying and attacking doesn't really work, especially against better fighters, but Master Strike can't be blocked and deals a lot of damage. All you have to do is attack the opposite side your enemy is attacking from and you will deal a lot of damage. These animations look amazing. It's even an actual technique. They had skilled HEMA, historical European martial artists, consult on the game's combat, and it shows. I am a big fan of sword fighting in video games, and KCD2 is my absolute favorite. I haven't played a lot with other weapons, but they are inferior to a good old sword in game. Even that is realistic. Sword fighting has more depth than bashing someone with a mace. Horseback riding is clunky as well, but I haven't seen anyone else mention this. I really don't like riding horses here. I don't know if I am doing something wrong or what, but I prefer being on foot way more. I'm not into the first person camera angle, I prefer third person, but here it works beautifully. Just need time to get used to it. The Witcher 3 story is what made the game so great. I usually like the protagonist and maybe a side character or the villain in most games, but here I loved every main character. Geralt, Yen, Ciri, Triss, Vesemir, Lambert, Dandelion, the Duchess, Controdame, and those are just the main characters. Even one-time characters have a huge impact. Nothing and no one is black and white. They are complex human beings, not predictable, and that's the reason you get invested and want to know more. Sometimes a game will give you surface level plots or surface level explanations. If you don't dive deep, you might make a bad decision or even a good one that has a bad ending. This applies to the main and the side stuff. Your path is unique and that opens up different quests depending on your choices. That's why the story grabs you. First, interesting characters. Second, it's not predictable at all. It's almost never what it looks like. Third, your decision matters, for good or for bad. It has an impact on Geralt's journey and of course everyone else involved. The Wild Hunt are the only one-dimensional beings in this world and it is by design. I do prefer Controdame to the Wild Hunt, but somehow generic evil works in the main story. Geralt is a great protagonist. He is fully developed so it doesn't feel totally RPG-like, but as a character he is up there. Being a Witcher, he doesn't show a lot of emotions, which is hilarious at times, has a dry sense of humor and is very bad at most things other than witchering. He is an old school protagonist, tough but a softie at heart, and unintentionally funny of course. The main story in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 moves very slowly. It's historical fiction and Henry pops up in some important situations. But most of the game isn't you doing something big or heroic. It's day to day and it's not a negative either. You interact with all kinds of people, bandits, nobles, villagers, farmers, knights, and that's where the game shines. Conversations. This feels like a true RPG. You have many different options to deal with people. You can lie through your teeth and if you're any good, your life will be very easy. And it's hilarious. You can try to be a stereotypical knight. You can be Mr. Moneybags. I want to know how long it took to do voiceovers. Every branch has its own story and there are about a zillion conversations all over. Characters are a hit and miss for me. Some I like, some I don't. Henry is one of my favorite protagonists. Like I said before, he feels like a Gen Z man sent back to the Middle Ages. He can be hilarious. I mean, the man is fondly known as Henry of Caslets. He is a master at turning conversations on their head. He'll do the most heinous things, lie through his teeth, and somehow make the guards apologize. So while I find the main story okay, the dialogue is out of this world good. In my opinion, The Witcher 3 is better overall. Except for the combat system, I think it is better. The main story, characters are connected with more. Side quests are absolutely top tier in both games. I can't really choose. Combat and gameplay KCD2 is better. This does come down to personal preference, but I like the world of The Witcher 3 and the people in it just a little bit more. But I have to admit, I had the most fun I've had in a while with combat in KCD2. If you want to see two of the best cities in gaming compared, Novigrad and Gutenberg, click the video on screen. Let me know your thoughts and your pick in the comment section below. If you like this one, make sure to subscribe. You will love future content as well. For now, like, comment and subscribe and I will see you next time.